to figure this whole thing out, man. You know what I mean? Like I got my co-host jumping on here in a second, but just wanted to come on and say happy holidays. Hope everybody's good with the turkey, even though it's like 3 weeks later. This is how this works sometimes. So on the podcast today, we're going to talk about a plethora. I'm gonna start using that word more. A plethora. Don't shake your head. I can see you. That's not cool. A plethora of different subjects. We're going to talk about the VA. We're going to talk a little bit about the Houston shooting that a cop lost his life. I don't know if my boy Jonathan heard about that, so I'll fill him in on that. But you know how it is, man. I could give you all the topics in the world. We might get to one, we might get to two, or we might end up talking about aliens or some shit. So, Jonathan, say what's up to the people, man.
Is this thing on? No, I'm just messing with you. Hey, how's it going? It's been a minute. I think we haven't talked in about 2 minutes. This is my fourth time on with you, almost in a row, I think. So I guess I'm becoming sort of a regular. I don't know. We'll see. Somebody said I was a Stugatzi or Levitard. Either one is an insult to me, but whatever. I'll take what I can get right now. Yeah, man, we're talking about the VA, I think, before the show started, and you mentioned the Houston shooting, which I heard in the news, but I haven't really been following the news about anything about the impeachment stuff, because that to me is like the WWE or a soap opera. Stuff is going on with the only thing that's caught my eye is the active shooter stuff that's been happening, like 2 or 3 of them in the last few days, I believe. And I haven't even dug into it. I just see the headlines and I shake my head, and I don't even want to really go any farther than that. But I know I'm going to have to here pretty soon. But I've been busy looking into some like business opportunities that I want to kind of dig deep into. So I've been reading and studying and taking some classes and looking at some webinars. So that's what's been keeping me busy for the last couple of weeks.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got a lot going on, like with your kid. That I'm always gonna say. Just want to say this right now. I'm always gonna remind you of this on and off the podcast. Like your kid that's about to be taller than you. You know, I was gonna say it. You know what I mean? It's gonna be taller than you here in the next couple of years. Like he's working on being a model and writing books and all this stuff. Super creative kid that you got. He clearly got it all from his mom, right? Like, can we just?
he I would hope he got something from me. Unfortunately, I think it's the height. Even though he's going to be taller than me, he's not going to be much taller. So, and he reminds me of that every day. So, you don't have to.
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on what you brought up there, like the active shooter stuff. Like, dude, like I'll graze by. You know what I mean? I'll look, but I really don't spend too much time looking at that because it gets exhausting, right? Because I mean, what can we do in those situations? And it's just too much, like, because it happens every day. Like, you don't hear about the people when it's like 2 people that get killed. You get like when it's more than 5, it becomes news, right? Like, we become numb to it, and we've talked about that ad nauseum on this podcast, and we'll probably continue to talk about it, sadly, because it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. But first thing I wanted to talk to you about, right? Obviously, socialism and socialist stuff is heavy on a lot of people's conversations with either memes or stuff like that. But one of the things that's clearly a socialist program is Veterans Affairs hospitals, right? Because it's our taxes used to help people that you pay towards. Now, like we've stated before many times on the podcast, you and I are both veterans, but I don't have VA. I didn't even like think I could qualify for it because I didn't have, you know what I mean? I didn't deploy. I didn't have any injuries in the military. That's a lie. I fucked up my knee. But you know what I mean? Like I didn't stay up with it. I remember when I got out, like when I was doing my medical records, like, oh, don't even worry about taking these with you, which was stupid on my part. Don't even worry about taking these with you because you'll be fine. You probably won't need it. You didn't have any big stuff. Like at that time, I think you couldn't like qualify. You couldn't file for hearing loss, which you can do now. Like just a bunch of stuff that happened, like because that's the loopholes that they don't tell you about when they give you the slogan to support our troops, right?
Right.
It doesn't support our troops in brackets, but not if they get injured, not if they have this, not if they leave with addiction. We won't help them after that. So I know your wife has been getting on you about getting into the VA, but what do you think about it as a whole? And everybody I've talked to, like that's on the outside of the VA, shits on it. But people who I know who are conservatives or liberals or progressives or whatever they are, they actually choose to go to the VA as opposed to having their employer provided insurance. So that I think that already speaks volumes. So what do you think?
Yeah, man. She was smart about it, right? I think you can apply as early as 120 days out before you get out or retire. And she started the process like the day the clock started and she hit that threshold. She started that paperwork, and within I think 6 months or less, she started getting her VA benefits and stuff like that. I mean, it was a process. So 6 months leading up to the point she got out, and another 6 months. So it took almost a year total to start getting paid. But um, you mentioned the socialist system, right? Or universal healthcare. And so we had that when
Yeah,
we were both active duty, and then she got out, and because she's a retiree, she's got TRICARE. So we have a really our health insurance. We have health insurance through TRICARE, and I mean we have the option of getting private insurance to supplement TRICARE, but we haven't had to. And TRICARE is like $500 a year for the family. We have a family of four, and for because she's a retiree, that's what it ends up being. And then you end up paying like you have some co-pays or you have certain things you got to pay, but that's our premium. You some people pay $500 a month, $1,500 a month. We're at five a year, or yeah, 500 a year. And so she has that, but on top of that, she has the VA. So she receives, not only benefits through the VA because she got a pretty high rating, but she gets healthcare through the VA. And like I get people's complaints. The VA is slow. The VA loses paperwork. The VA doesn't take care of people. And I mean, I'm not saying that's been fixed, but it's been brought to light over the last few years, especially because you have soldiers and Marines and airmen that are coming back from Afghanistan or getting out, and they need to be treated for PTSD. They need to be treated for all sorts of things that we can and can't see. And that's what the VA is supposed to be there for. And that it was a really backwards agency, and it was brought to light by congressmen or congresswomen that, one, hopefully it's because they care about service members, and two, probably because you know a large demographic of their constituents, that's one of the things that matters to them. And so obviously they have to, or even lobbyists, whatever for whatever reasons it was brought to light. And so the VA has been getting cleaned up. um, I see it because I for how I work, and I kind of see it from my end of it. But the facilities that my wife goes to, that I've gone to, are top of the line facilities. I mean, they're brand new facilities here in Cleveland, and of course, we're next to Cleveland Clinic, and so Cleveland Clinic is one of the better hospitals in the U.S. They have some of the best doctors that come and do their residency here. Some of them choose to stay. Some of them are smart and say, "I can't deal with this bullshit weather," so they leave. But um, I think one of the complaints, I was talking to an old timer. I went to the VA to get seen 3 weeks ago, and an older veteran, older guy from I think he had been in Vietnam. So we were talking. He just started talking to me out of nowhere because we're all vets there, and so like that's one of the things that you can strike up a conversation. And his issue with the VA was that they kept losing his, or they kept charging him for healthcare. So like if you go to the VA and you need to go see somebody, they'll refer you out to a specialist in like one of the other hospitals, whether it's Cleveland Clinic or university hospitals or whatever, right? So if you're in Miami, the VA would refer you to like Jackson, if that hospital is still there, or call Jackson or whatever. Um, so what happens is that the VA will refer you to a hospital, but then the hospital will send you bills trying to collect, and there's a miscommunication between the hospital billing and the VA's billing or customer service representatives. So he's in the VA all the time because he's like, hey, I'm getting these $1,500, $1,800, $2,000 bills from the hospital, but this is all taken care of through the VA. So he's constantly talking to the VA reps there, or they're on like a three-way phone conversation with the VA and the hospital rep. And so that's one of the big things. Like their billing department, for whatever reason, seems to never get it right. And I don't know if it's the VA or the hospitals just not doing that part. But my wife had some of the same things. We got some bills here, and we're like, wait, what's going on? So she had to get on the phone with the VA to tell them, hey, why is this hospital sending me a bill when you guys referred me out to them? They should have been covered under you. And so it took an hour or whatever of being on the phone, but they took care of it. Free healthcare. Like at the end of the day, it was extra steps, something that probably shouldn't have happened, but she they took care of it because she's entitled to that free healthcare, and that's what I'm working on now. When I found I should have known this when I got out, but I didn't. If you deployed, you have 5 years of free healthcare from the point of once you get out or retire. And so I just hit my
Mhm.
4 year mark. So I got 1 year left to put in my claim with the VA so that I can continue getting my free healthcare past this 5 year mark. Because I was one of those people that like said, I'm going to go to PT. I'm going to go run in the rain. I don't care if I got 101, 102 fever and I'm coughing blood out.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to sick call. Like that's
Mhm.
not me. And it was stupid. Especially once like I made rank and I became a team leader and squad leader. I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to be out here because I need to set the example for these guys. And
Yeah.
so eventually I started going the last few years of like my career and stuff. And I didn't have anything crazy, but I have issues like just wrist issues and little things here and there. I messed up my ankle. Uh, so I have the records. The one thing that I did that I was smart is that I started the process. I went and talked to the VSO, a VA service officer or a veteran service officer. I went and talked to him, and we started the paperwork. I pulled my medical records, and I just never submitted it. So I have a stack that's like this thick of medical records, and it's just sitting there, and it's in like my filing cabinet somewhere, but it's there. So yeah, my wife kind of opened up my eyes to where I realized, hey, I need to get this free healthcare because it's gonna run out. I mean, I'll have it through TRICARE. It'll be at low cost, but free is better than low cost. And
Yeah.
if I have to deal with extra hurdles or I got to make an extra phone call to get a bill taken care of, then that's what it is. But there are some people they claim that they'd rather have private insurance because it's just so much easier. I'm like, okay, if $800 a month gives you that peace of mind because you don't want to make an extra phone call because someone screws up the billing, that's on you. I'll take the VA all day.
Yeah. So obviously, I'm on the private insurance side of it, right? Like, all the excuses and stuff or like the complaints I hear about it are much more like, oh, if you're gonna like, you'll lose your doctor and all this stuff and all these stuff like, oh, with socialized medicine or universal healthcare. Let's call it universal healthcare, right? Like, because you say socialized medicine, people start like, oh, these guys are fucking communists and
That's right.
they hate this country. Let's kick them out. Da, da, da. They'll completely omit the fact that we're veterans, serve this country, we're ready to die for this. You know what I mean? Like, they'll skip all that and we'll probably be shitted on as like rogue traitors of the deep state or some shit, right? Like that'll be the next thing that happens, and we don't even have purple hearts. Subliminals for people who are fucking listening, assholes. So what'll be? Oh, like, oh, you're gonna have to have a long wait. Then I was like, man, that'd be fucked up if you gotta have a long wait. But then you start to think about it, right? Like, every doctor's appointment I've ever had, I've had to wait for. Right? Like,
Right.
at no point have I had a doctor's appointment in my life where I could just go the next, walk right in, like, hey man, I'm Benjamin Borges. Here's my health insurance that I pay $1 billion for. And let me just walk right in and see the doctor. The chances are they're going to turn you away, right? And
Right.
that's with private insurance. They're going to be like, oh, sorry, we're booked up for the day. Come back tomorrow. You know what I mean? Or we have an opening 3 months from now because the doctor you're in search for is in high demand, or the doctor that you have that's a specialist is booked out 6 months ahead of time.
Right.
Or if you want to see a better doctor than the one that's in this area, you're going to have to travel 2 to 3 hours for. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's a disingenuous and it's a bullshit statement when people say, "Oh, you're gonna have to wait." You have to wait for healthcare anyway, unless you go to
Right.
the ER, and even there they don't treat you right away unless they think you're having a heart attack or you're about to die that you get expedited through.
Right.
Right? If you're just there because you can't breathe and you got like a bad cough,
Then you wait in
or your
line.
son or
They do
daughter,
triage.
yeah, exactly. Like with you, like raising your kids, like your kids get earaches or you know what I mean, or any kind of cough, you take them to the yard. You're still waiting, right? With anything, with any health insurance, you have to wait. So if I'm gonna have to wait anyway, but I'm gonna have to wait and also pay you a premium and a premium that you set at the market that you want to set it at because there's no oversight for what you want to do and all this other shit, but then I still have to wait, then that's clearly a worse health insurance, right? Like the people who here's the thing though, like the people who provide you healthcare, like the nurses, the doctors, the staff, the PTs, all those people are top of the line, right? Because the demand and the requirements they have are above most other countries or whatever. You know what I mean? On an anecdotal anecdotal basis, right? Just because I've seen doctors outside of the country and whatever. But like those people, this isn't an attack or an indictment on them. Like this is the fact that people who I know have great jobs, right? That I talk to that again are conservatives that are on every side of the spectrum. If they have the option for the VA because they're veterans, that's what they choose, right? Because the you're still gonna get cared for. Like I talked to a couple of people that they pay like $15 for all $50 for all their appointments in one day. So they'll take a day off, go to the VA, do all their things, do all their exams, all their annual stuff, all their requirements, and then they're done and they move on and they paid $50. And then there's no surprise bill in a couple weeks because that one nurse or that one doctor that you saw was out of your network, which you didn't know at the time, which just happened to me, right? I don't know if I've told you that story. When I was having a panic attack, I went to a hospital that was in my network, but the doctor that I saw that was moonlighting. Moonlighting means like they don't really work there.
Right.
They're kind of just showing up or whatever. They're covering down. So
Is
he was moonlighting without. Yeah, you like that? I had to break it down for people who might not understand. You never know. I try to make this as simple as possible, bro. So he covered, and I had a $2,000 bill. 2 months later, I was like, "Yo, what is this?" Like the place I went to, I even called because I'm having a panic attack, thinking I'm having a heart attack. I even called like my insurance was like, "Hey, is so and so hospital under our network?" Like, yeah, absolutely, go ahead. I went there and I had a surprise bill, and it's the same thing that guy was complaining to you about, right? The fact that you see these people who are it's supposed to be covered. You think about that. If you're a retired veteran, you pick up your Social Security and you're on a fixed income at the end of the day. Right. You get a surprise bill like that, you can't pay that, right?
No,
and I'm not on a fixed income. I have a job. I make good money. I get a salary. But if I get a bill like that, yo, I'm calling them like, hey, look, we're gonna have to set up some payments or something because $2,000 out of the pocket is not happening right now. And it shouldn't. It's crazy because it shouldn't happen to begin with. If I'm paying this much money, right? If I'm paying this much money, it should just be covered.
Yeah, you should be getting top flight service.
Yeah, exactly. That shouldn't be getting covered up to a certain point, and then they'll kind of work with you and, hey, shake my hand and treat me nice on the phone, and you know what I mean. I shouldn't have to
try to find a loophole for what not to cover.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, this year we're not going to cover X amount of diseases or X amount of, you know what I mean, infections or all this other shit. And we're going to decide that if you were pregnant, that's a pre-existing condition. So we're not going to cover that. We're going to kick you off of that. You know what I mean? Like this year we're going to cover only 30% of this medication because fuck it. You know what I mean? Like it's all these things like, dude, it's
no one is telling us we can't.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was watching some shit and I kind of had an idea. And I think me and you talked about it because we fucking talk all the time. Like about like prescription drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that we get here, like how they're priced and all that stuff. Like I didn't know that those companies like Pfizer and all those prescription companies and drug companies, they actually take our money, right? So they take our money for their research and development. So 20, 40, $50 billion a year, whatever it is, they get to spend that money on the research, right? And then they get to create things like insulin, Humira, you name it, Viagra, all that stuff. But they get to pocket all the profit. So we gave them the money, right? And they discover these things that fix this and that or the third, or help you manage it because nothing actually fixes it, right? Everything's just a treatment, not a cure.
Mm-hmm.
So you go into that. So they make all that money and then they get to tell you, oh, this insulin now is $2,000 a vial. And you can't do shit. You can't talk to them. You might fuck around and die because you got to ration on your insulin. All this stuff will make, if you have money and you're able to travel to Canada and you get it for like $5, you know what I mean? Like, how is that an argument of like, we talked about it, like we have friends that are like very pro business, right? Like, how is that a good thing for humanity? Just because they have to make a profit, people, if you can't pay for it, then you should die. Like, what's the argument for that? You know what I mean? Just because it's all encompassing of the universal healthcare thing, right? Because it's looked at as this like terrible thing. Oh, I shouldn't pay for somebody else. Yeah, man, but this person might not make as much as you, so they should die because they can't get their insulin. You know what I mean? The mother should have to bury their child because you don't want some random person at some point possibly taking advantage of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, people will uh they'll make the excuse that, like you said, I don't want to pay for somebody else. It's like in their mind they have it said that, oh, I'm gonna be paying for Scott and Susie and Jason and Jose. Like they have like specific people. I was like, you're not, it's just for the greater good, man. Like at the end of the day, that's who it is. But if you'd rather pay $100 of private insurance, like I haven't seen the numbers. I haven't seen the numbers from to justify to see how much it would cost, right, for universal healthcare. But there are people that are paying $800, 400, 500, 1200, healthy people, but they have a family of 3 or 4 and they want to have really good health insurance. So really good health insurance, even if you're healthy, is going to be expensive. And people would rather pay those premiums than consider universal healthcare. Now, I don't know how that would affect your taxes as far as the number. You know what I mean? Like if we didn't have to get private insurance and we went the universal healthcare route, how much more would I pay in taxes a year? Would it be the equivalent of an extra $5, $6, $7, $800 a month, which is what some people are already paying in tax in insurance? Some people are paying more, and I get that there are some people that have no insurance, so that's why they're like, I don't want to pay for somebody else. But I just I don't get it that in this day and age that's not one of the things that's at the forefront, which is healthcare for everyone. Some people can't afford it. Some people can't afford it. That's why they don't have it. Some people choose not to have it for whatever reason. And then usually maybe those are the people that have enough cash or liquid enough or have the assets to say, I'll just pay whenever I need to use the doctors, I'll pay for it. But not everyone has that. The majority of the people in this country don't have that luxury.
Yeah. So one of the things that's crazy, right? Like with the Affordable Care Act or whatever however you want to call it, if you want to call it Obamacare, whatever. Yeah. Like one of the things that I didn't know about it and I didn't realize till later was that one of the things that isn't cool about it is that they made people who couldn't afford to get health insurance have to get it, right? So that's how they fell under the whole like, oh, you're covered now. More people are covered on.
Right.
But again, if you work at a minimum wage job, right? That's a huge cut into your money when that minimum wage job working because you're 16, 17, 18 years old, mm-hmm. and maybe your parents can't afford to put you under their health insurance and you have to get it under a penalty because you pay taxes or whatever. Right. Like that, those are factors too. Like you when you make it mandatory, but you don't make it more cost effective, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it had positive things like you had to cover pre-existing conditions, which we get the benefit of, because my wife has Crohn's and all this stuff. Like you have those things where there was a positives, but when you make it mandatory for everybody to get it and then put it under a penalty, I was like, dude, like you should have just started at expanding Medicare so everybody has it. You know what I mean? Like the thing that's crazy is like Walmart, for example, gets money from the government because they don't pay their employees enough, but they have to put them. We know, what I mean? You and I know this. You have to put them under Medicare because they have to have some kind of insurance because they don't do private insurance. Right. So because that's money that they don't have to pay the private. So that's a subsidy. Again, that's reallocated funds that we're paying for one of the richest corporations in the world. Right. That again, us as American citizens are subsidizing. These are things that like I don't understand. Like it literally like it's all underneath the surface, but it's not like so deep where it gets exhausting to research. It's literally a Google search that'll give you these answers and give you this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all right there. Like usually what I do, because I'm a fucking weirdo about this shit, like I'll do 2 or 3 links. You know what I mean? If me and you are talking about a subject, we'll send each other it usually starts with like a video clip. Oh man, let me see if that's real. Then I look at a couple of different things. Obviously from like sources that I trust. I'm not gonna go to like a white supremacist website, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to say names of them or people that have a vested interest on either bias. Right. I'll try to go for like things that I can't consider that have a bias on either side. You know what I mean? Like, because you got to be careful with the headlines and stuff like that. But if it's topics that we're talking about and not researching people, like if me and you Google like, oh, Donald Trump news or Bernie Sanders news, like obviously you're going to get scattered thing on either side. But if me and you are looking up like, oh man, what's the boyfriend loophole in gun control? Like things that I don't know about, which we're going to talk about later.
Yeah,
right?
what?
Like, or what is the gun show? Yeah, that's the Houston shit. Or what's the gun show loophole? Or you know what I mean? Obviously, it varies by state, so I can only tell you like as far as Florida, the
Hmm.
stuff I've learned through police that I've talked to and shit like that. But like all these things, like the Google, like you have a computer in your pocket at all times. Like there's no reason to look at everything at face value and not do a little bit of research. You know what I mean? Especially if you want to have that argument and talk to somebody about it. So when people are pro business to an extent, all this stuff, it's but without doing the research, it's just something that like they've been taught, right? They're the nature versus nurture aspect, I guess. You know what I mean? Like they've been told that this is how you should be, and not like question it. Like I guess I question them, like, yo, like how far does your I don't want to sound like a dick. Like how far does your like intelligence really go? Like your intelligent and like you know what I mean? Like your
Right.
curiosity for this. Because if it's a conversation that you want, because if it's a conversation that you want to engage in, you kind of have to know what you're talking about, right? Like you can't just be, and I'll give you examples for it in a second. Like you can't just be, I know this is true.
Right. Keep an
Okay,
open
could
mind.
you? No. Yeah, like okay, could you show me where that was said? You know what I mean? And then like, because I've had it with coworkers, I'll say it like this,
Hmm.
where they're like, oh no, I know he said this. All right, man, could you show me? Like, could you show me where? And then like I'll see them scrolling on their phone. You
Uh-huh.
know what I mean? Like if you have to do this a couple times, you're already lying. Like
Right.
because it should have been the first thing that popped up.
Right.
So it was like at that moment, accept the fact that you might be incorrect, and it's okay because there's 1,000 shit that I'm wrong about. Like I never approach it with like some arrogance, like I know everything. Oh, you're clearly fucking wrong because you're a conservative, a progressive, a liberal. Like no, man. Like I want to understand your thing, but like when you start saying like, oh no, we can't do that because I shouldn't have to pay for somebody else, then you're not then I question your pro-lifeness, right? Then I question your support our troopness. Then I question all of that because pro-life isn't a one term thing for me, right?
Right.
Pro-life is you're just pro all lives, right?
Right.
You're an all lives matter person to me.
Right.
But then you can't be like, nah man, I don't want to pay for Jose and his family because they're you know what I mean, they're gonna be I'm gonna have to pay for them out of pocket and it's money that I don't see. Dude, you do that right now with a private health company, with a
Right.
private insurance. That's literally what it is. Somebody that has my same insurance company is getting the funds that I put in there because it's a tax, but they make all the profit. Like, how do you not see those? How do you not see that connection? Like, it's like straight line right there, and it's just like, oh well, I don't care. They ain't taking any more of my taxes. They're taxing you right now, bro.
Yeah. The private insurance company is. And then you get screwed because then they try to find a loophole of, well, you know what? That's not exactly what your condition is, so we can only cover 60%, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the deal is. And you talked about people that are pro business, and I don't want to get too much into that, but you know,
Yeah, we won't say names. We don't say names.
no, but people talk about capitalism and you're pro business and this and that, and it's like, yeah, I'm not pro like big business like billionaires, and because at that point when if you're a billionaire and you own a publicly traded company, meaning you might own 50% of it, or you might own a majority, you might be a majority shareholder or stakeholder, but that's other people that are buying into your company. Like I get it, in the initial idea and company was yours, but now the public owns your company and they're shareholders. And when companies get that big, I mean, are they really doing what's in the best interest of the company and the people that work for that company? Or is it just, we just got to make more money for these shareholders regardless? You know what I mean? Like I'm pro capitalism when you're talking about mom and pop businesses, small
Yeah,
and
and
medium sized
yeah.
businesses. And that's what they rely on. And then I see them in my community. I have neighbors that are business owners. Like I'm pro capitalism when it comes to that. When it comes to billionaires, 80 times over, 40 times over. And then you have a company like Amazon that hasn't paid taxes. I think they didn't pay taxes in 2017 or 18, or I think it's 2018 and 2017 and 18. That blows my mind.
So yeah, so here's what's funny about the whole pro business and pro capitalist argument, right? Like you're those people also can't say they're pro small business, right? Because if they're pro, like the bigger businesses have a bigger voice because they're able to give them more money, right?
Right.
Like at the end of the day, politicians set the rules and the regulations. So
Yeah.
Walmart can give tens of millions of dollars to whoever person they think is going to win in their local election to be able to give them that lot and all that shit. Like we can dive, you know what I mean? We can talk about that deeper at a later date, but
Yeah.
that whole thing of it,
Yeah. The
the
campaign financing.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's a whole different podcast
Yeah.
all on its own. Like that's 6 hours of just live stream. Holy shit, these guys are fucking nerds. Like that's a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
That public bribery that people don't care about or just are blind to it is crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it, and these corporations literally squash those small businesses, right? Those family businesses, those hardware stores that were mom and pop, the gas stations that are not mom and pop, that some of them are chains. You know what I mean? Like you have these multinational corporations come in, they're the death of capitalism because it's no longer a choice, right? You can
Right.
only go to that Walmart because that
Right.
Walmart has everything, right?
Yeah. They
And
put the
we as
other 5
consumers,
stores out of business.
yeah, they're all gone. Like now you have Walmarts with restaurants inside, you know what I mean? Like fast food joints inside. So that McDonald's or that Subway that was there before is gone. You know what I mean? That Dunkin' Donuts now, Walmart has donuts. So, you know what I mean? Because us as consumers, because we're the instant gratification society, right? Is in every way from every generation now. We want it all instantaneous. If we can go to one store and get pants, shorts, you know what I mean? Fucking like some food, that's where we're gonna go to. Like you're not gonna stop at multiple stores if you can just go to Walmart, right? Like they
Right.
have the monopoly on that.
Yeah.
But Walmart has killed hundreds and thousands of businesses and put thousands of people out of work. Those people, that might be the only places they could have worked in that town, and now they could only work at that Walmart that's subsidized by the government for the health insurance that they used to make a couple $1,000s or whatever they did a week or a year, whatever, and now they only make $725.
Right.
Right? Like those are like that's a bigger conversation that's never had. Like we are in. If you get nothing else from this podcast, at least this episode, we're in a losing fucking battle, man. Like there was class warfare, but we didn't know what was happening, and they fucking won because they bought everybody.
Yeah.
If you take donors and if anybody you voted for at any point ever took donors, it's a wrap, bro. That person doesn't care about you. You don't matter at all. Right? On the left or the right, the middle, whatever the fuck you want to say. Obviously, I could go on a rant about my boy Bernie. Not gonna do that because that's, I mean, like
no, but it builds on it, right? Like even if you're someone that says they're clean or whatever, and you're like, hey, I'm not gonna take I'm not gonna take donations from these people, but then you're like, you know what? If I don't take them, I'm not gonna be able to continue my campaign. I'm not gonna be able to run,
right.
or my opponents are gonna outspend me. So I'll take it. I'll take it this time. And then you take it, but what happens? Then you're already in their pocket. No matter what your intentions were, like you took it that time, now you're gonna take it the rest of your time, and now you're gonna have to worry about my reelection, and it's just it just snowballs. Like if you take campaign dollars, especially when you're talking about like national elections, where all the way that some of these nonprofits are set up, and how you can essentially contribute anonymously. As much as you want to any particular candidate that you want, because they're going to shape the policy the way that you want.
Of course.
How and it goes on, and it's perfectly legal. But tell me how that is actual democracy. It's not a government for the people or of the people. It's a government of the 10 billionaires that are, or whomever, however many, a handful of people that are providing that money. That's it. That's who's speaking.
Yeah, like that's it. So what they've done is they've literally, like the picture of like Lady Justice that has like the scale. They put their finger. They didn't put their fingers on the scale. They put their entire ass on that motherfucker. And we like it's a wrap. Like that's why all these conversations that we'll ever have when we talk about like different funding and different stuff and taxes, not like it's good for us to talk about it because it you know what I mean. Hopefully somebody watches and be like, damn, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Right. Like that's why I started. Like if one or two people are like, yo, I didn't know that's what corporations do, or shit like that. Like I didn't know that's how it works, or Citizens United, or super PACs, which are political action committees, and all this stuff. If we just get a little bit of that from these podcasts, amongst a bunch of other shit that we talk about, like randomly, you know what I mean?
Because that applies to both sides, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or whatever.
Yeah,
like, that stuff.
Both sides, like 100%. Like I understood. Like we talked about it before. I understood why Trump won right? Like this is never gonna be an episode of or a podcast of like, oh, let's debate the 2016 election. No, man. Like
Nah.
everybody could fucking tell why Hillary lost. She was a terrible, you know what I mean? Again, terrible candidate, yada 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 yada. Feed whatever shit you want to feed into there. You know what I mean? Like you all these people that take money, your conversations and your posts and your support and your fanaticism doesn't matter because they don't give a fuck about you. They're all they care about is their donors because it just makes sense, bro. Like if you think about it, if you and I run for Congress or Senate or whatever, right, locally or whatever, if somebody who has the louder voice, the person who can give you $1,000 or the one that can give you one, right? Be
Right.
it the one that gives you one probably needs you a lot more, but the one that gives you $1,000 just wants you because they want something from you. Hey man, like when we're gonna be polluting this lake real quick, I'm gonna need you to look away for a second. Because
Right.
remember, I gave you $1,000. Hey,
It's
I need to
crazy.
give you this $1. You know what I mean? I need to give you this $1 because my daughter or my son are getting killed by these power lines and giving us cancer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what's the give and take there, bro?
Yeah, and
It's
what's crazy
fucking
is that
crazy.
that relationship, right? It's like it the people that can afford to give, they don't need you, but they want to use you in a certain way. Whereas the people that are like, hey, I'll give you this much because it's all I can give, who are actually the people that you're supposed to be representing. Probably, if someone's donating, and there are people that donate and they go and donate $50 or $20 or $100. Those are
Right.
the people that probably you should be representing. Those are the ones that should be donating, and all they can afford is $100. And
Mhm.
that's the voice who, those are the people whose voices should be heard, not the person that can just drop 5 grand. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but if you're dropping 5 grand and 10 grand or 50 grand or 100 grand on a regular, or if you're a particular business and you're dropping a lot more than that, I, I don't, if you can afford to, if you can afford to donate thousands and thousands of dollars, I don't think you really need any representation. I think at that point you want the representation to use it to your own advantage. Whereas, like you
Exactly.
said, the person that had the $1 or the $50, that's someone that says, you know what, I got to take care of kids, but this is all I can afford, and hopefully it'll contribute because you have a voice that speaks for me. And there are a lot of people like that. Unfortunately, $1 from a lot of people isn't going to stack up to millions of dollars. We just don't have enough people
Yeah.
to back that. And I mean, that's the way the campaign financing works. A lot of it is kind of, and it's a lot of it is shady, but a lot of it is straightforward. Like we know about super PACs. Like everyone's heard about super
Yeah.
PACs. Everyone's heard about the anonymous donations. Like we know about it, and there's no limit to it. And yet we're fine with it. Like if that doesn't tell you that there's manipulation there and that essentially those with money control the outcome of elections, then I don't know what will.
Yeah. I mean, nothing else matters, right? Like that's why, like, so how this all ties in together, especially I guess more significantly in this podcast. So we're talking about like health insurance and stuff like that. Like all these corporations that all these drug companies and health insurance companies donate to politicians, right?
Right.
So that's why you get the propaganda and the statements like of, oh, you're gonna lose your doctor, you're gonna lose your health
Mm-hmm.
insurance, but they never tell you, but you're gonna get better insurance that you don't have to pay out of pocket for. Yes, you might have to pay a little more, but then you don't have premiums, you don't have deductibles, you don't have copays. All this
Right.
stuff is eliminated. They're
Right.
already you just look at that. 15 seconds it took me to explain
Yeah.
universal health insurance or something. Just did it right there. Boom, done. Easy. Like we're getting ready for my job, right? We're getting ready to do our enlistment stuff, like our re-up for the year.
Your open
Right. So
season, yeah.
my open enrollment, right? So we're gonna
Yeah.
take a look at that after we get off here, and we're gonna break it down and see which one works the best. Like, dude, like this past 12 months, I literally didn't go to the doctor once. Like for any like ailment, I was like, yo, I don't want to pay. Like I'm paying this exorbitant amount of money, and then having to go there, it makes me mad, right? Because I'm paying you X amount of money, and then I have to show up and pay you more money. Like that's insane. Like that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't make any sense to me at all whatsoever. And as I've learned more about health insurance and like just looked more into it, I was like, dude, like this is clearly a better program. And then I talk to people again who are, I always say conservatives first because I throw in the rest of them as like I want to all encompassing. But like the people I talk to were like clear Trump supporters or clear Republicans,
Mm-hmm.
and they go to the VA, right? These are people who did years of service long time ago, and you know what I mean, like that are older, and that's
Right.
where they choose to go. And they have careers, they have jobs. These are people that I work with, so on and so forth. Like they choose to go to the VA. That tells you right, you know what I mean? That tells you right there that yes, it might not be ideal, right? But again, you can't walk into any doctor's office tomorrow and get taken care of. The only way you did it is the emergency room. And guess what? People who don't have health care, like I had a cousin-in-law who was in a terrible accident a couple years ago, and she has a job. She's a full-time student and didn't have health care because couldn't afford it. Right.
Right.
The only way she was able to get treated was going through the emergency room. Guess what, bro? Us to have health insurance, like for especially us for private, that's the only way we get instantaneously get help. So the people who don't have insurance and the people who do have insurance get instantly treated the same way. Emergency room. You can't walk into a dermatologist tomorrow and get this skin thing looked at. You can't walk into a urologist and say like, hey, I got a kidney stone. You got to make appointments for all that shit. So you got to wait for health insurance anyway. So any argument against it, just think about that, bro.
Yeah, but come
and
on,
you're paying
man.
more money on top of that.
You're not. You're paying, but you're not paying anyone else. You're paying an insurance company for you. That's why it's so much better. Yeah, because it's under your name. Because the bill comes under your name, so you're paying for you. That's how it works. That's crazy to me. No, you mentioned that you didn't really go to the doctor this last year. Now, again, I haven't had I was under private health insurance. I think it was Prudential. I remember looking at my stepfather's statement a long time ago, sometime in the 90s, mid 90s. I was like 12. And even at that time, he was paying like $400. This was 22 years ago, 21 years ago, right around the time probably that we were like, we got to know each other. And he was paying about $400 for a family of 4 and 22 years ago. So, and that was for good insurance. So imagine how much really good insurance goes for now. I mean, I don't want to imagine. You obviously, you know what it's like. I haven't had to pay for private insurance ever. I just remember seeing my stepfather's bill because he was trying to teach me a lesson. Like, hey, look, if you, I don't know if I don't really remember. I don't know if I was being an asshole or something, and he was trying to like show me like how ungrateful I was being, or maybe he was just having a talk with me about like, hey, you need to focus on school and become a professional and make good money. I don't know what it was, but he decided to show me that bill, and it was a Prudential bill, and I was like, God damn, and it blew my mind at that time. And so, and I haven't really had to pay for it, you know, because of the Army and then afterwards getting out. But if you had gone to the doctor, right, and you're in your open season, open enrollment now, would you have to pay? But your insurance would go up, right? Just like car insurance if you get into an accident, or would it not go up? Or so you're paying for it, and then if you use it, you got to pay more for it afterwards when it's time to re-up.
So here's, as far as I know, the stuff that I've looked into, right? I think most health insurance companies are a little vary on the differences, but for the most part, almost every year, like it goes up 18%, right? Like either the deductible or the copay, like they get their money somewhere or another. You know what I mean? Like they get it like on a tax or something like that. Like we'll talk about this more. This fucking dog. We'll talk about this more like when I go look through my most recent open enrollment, but it always goes up. Like I know last year, like it was a noticeable amount difference as far as like the taxes I was paying for the health insurance tax I was paying. Let's just call it that because that's what it is. The private health insurance tax that I was paying last year was noticeably higher. But as far as like, yeah, dude, like because I was paying, especially like this past year, because I was paying so much more. Like it made me mad that like I would have to go to a doctor and then have to pay more money. You know what I mean? Like I'm paying you so much money, like what equals out to almost a paycheck, right? If you put those split income, those split weeks together, what it goes out to be a paycheck. But then my health insurance isn't much better. We have to constantly fight for our health insurance for this, that, or the third. You know what I mean? Like either the medications, the coverage, it's always a struggle. It's never any easier, right? But I'm almost like out of breath and out of words for like how frustrating it is that there's no alternative to it. Like I'll give my company credit in this sense. Like I talked to HR. I was like, dude, like, is there anything I could do? And then, you know, he was like, look, you could look at, and one of my bosses was like, look, you could take a look at this and like be almost like a free agent, right?
Yeah.
And then you would have to like vet out what health insurance company would work best for you. And when that happened, like I got put up on like a free, almost like a free agency thing. I got thousands of calls from like all these numbers all over the country of
Right.
like different health insurance companies. And dude, like again, like I've only ever had universal health care, which we had in the military, and I had health insurance when I was a security guard, but I was fresh out of the military. Never used that shit. Never went to a doctor. Never nothing. Right? Like never went. Just didn't happen. So I didn't even think about it then, right? Because I was younger, didn't care. So even then so I've never had to like have to have a conversation and like vet out a potential insurance coverage, right? Or coverer or whatever, or a salesman for that shit. So like that was overwhelming in itself, right? And so I'm talking to my wife like, dude, like how the fuck, like what questions do you even ask?
Right.
Because I've had these things provided for me through my employer, and it's never like it's not. I'm not gonna put like the onus or anything on any employee that I've worked for previously through the different companies and all that stuff, but like I don't know that stuff. That's my own ignorance, right? Because I've never had to ask that stuff. But when you're paying X amount of $1,000 a month or whatever it is, you know what I mean? You're like you start noticing like, yo, that's a lot of money, bro, that I didn't have to come out of pocket for after the fact. Like it's crazy to me like that I have to pay this amount of money, and then if I have surgery, I have to pay an additional amount of money. That could be whatever price that anesthesiologist, that surgeon, that surgery center, that hospital costs. Right? Like they set the price up whatever they wanted at. So it's madness, bro. It's fucking madness.
It is. I mean, like I said, I haven't. I'm sure someone's run the numbers, right? Like when they were Affordable Healthcare or Affordable Care Act, when they were coming up with Obamacare, like what those numbers would actually mean, how much to get real healthcare, because that program, when it was, it came into effect, but it was stripped down from what it originally was supposed to be, which was universal healthcare. But the reason why it was passed was because they changed it so many times and amended it in order to be something that appeased the other side. But to have an honest conversation, what would universal? Go ahead.
Sorry to interject. It's to appease the donors because the donors had investments in both parties, which are probably the same donors to both parties.
Exactly.
So you couldn't make the donors mad because you couldn't get the fundraising through actual citizens. You could only get it through billionaires and multinational corporations, yada yada yada. So that's why the bastardized universal health care thing that we got was such bullshit. Right. Was because it wasn't universal health care. It was just mandatory private insurance. That's basically what it came down.
And you said it right. It's the donors and it's to both sides. So it's not even like I said the opposition or the other side, the other party, whatever, but it really wasn't, because they both they all take money from those donors. Both sides do. So it wasn't really appeasing, like I'm going to appease the Democratic Party or the Democrats, I'm going to appease the Republicans so they can approve it. No, I'm appeasing the lobbyists from these companies who are the same lobbies that are talking to the same folks on the other side of the aisle because of that money that's coming in. So they're not just thinking about universal healthcare. They're thinking about, well, this is going to affect my reelection, right? You shouldn't be thinking that way. You should be thinking about what's best for the people, but instead you're thinking about my reelection, and I just,
I know, bro. I know.
I haven't had to suffer through that, man. I haven't, like, I'm out of words. I haven't had to suffer through that because I've been fortunate because of my situation. But I know, what I'd like to know the people that say, hey, I don't want to pay for universal health care, because you nailed it. You called it my private insurance tax. My health insurance tax. That's what it is. It's a tax.
That's what it is.
You're paying it to a private company, but it's a tax. If people use that, if you use that name for the premiums that you pay monthly on a monthly basis, instead of calling it, hey, this is my health insurance every month, no, call it my tax. Would people be happy about it then? And what are the numbers? Like I wonder what the demographics and are for the folks that say, I don't want universal health care because I don't want to pay for so and so. I'd just rather have my own. Like, as what I mean by not just like, age and gender and race and all that stuff, but like salary, like money, income wise, like what bracket of people, what are they making? What's the majority of people saying? Are the people that are comfortable six-figure earnings saying, I don't want universal health care, or is it the people that are like on the bottom to middle end, somewhere in the 20, 30 to 60, 70 range? Are they the ones that are saying, no, I don't want to pay for someone else? Like,
I
you know what I
so
mean? How does that break down? I'd like to see an analysis of like who the as far as income
I
brackets
would
go, who with universal health care and who is not.
100% like to see that analysis. Like I could give you an anecdote about it right now. Where like as far as like the people I've interacted with, and that are on both sides of the spectrum of like
Mm-hmm.
very high end income, that are, I guess, you know what I mean, and their feelings about it. But it's it's all over the spectrum. But I guess, dude, it's almost exhausting because it's not. They look at it as like they're being punished, right?
Right.
Because it's, I guess, if you want to say socially mandated or whatever. But again, like the moment you have an employer, you're mandated to pay this health insurance tax, right? So that again is capital, like socialist capitalism. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's put into this bucket that you have no idea how much is going in there, because you have no idea how many people have your insurance, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
let's you could break down that whole thing. They get to make all the profit. They get to tell you what's covered, what's not covered, how much you're gonna have to pay, what your co-pays are, depending on the doctor you see. They make all these rules that you have no say so about, right? No say so. You can't say shit. You just
Right.
got to sit there and fucking take it, right? When you're in the military, it doesn't matter because you're not paying anything, so you're not thinking about it even then. So, dude, it's again like it all comes back to the way campaigns are financed, the way that these people are able to take money and not tell you who to take money from.
Yeah.
Like you get $30 million from the NRA, when you get $30 million from the NRA after a shooting, and
Mm-hmm.
you're sitting in the Oval Office, hanging out, having a great
Right.
time. Or if you're a turtle of a man that's the Senate Majority Leader, that you take tons of money from the NRA. Or if you're I'm calling names. If you're John Cornyn, because now we're gonna get into the whole Houston thing, because this is all together, right? This is all
Right.
about campaign finance. It's all about bribery. It's all about donors and all that shit. Like you get into the whole John Cornyn, who's a representative of Texas,
Mm-hmm.
who I think up for re-election in 2020. Hopefully, he gets the fuck up out of there. Like you have a shooting in Texas now that a sergeant, a police officer, was killed.
Mm-hmm.
So let me jump back. So they have this thing called the boyfriend loophole, right? Where
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about
I'm
that.
gonna paraphrase it. Yeah, so I'm gonna paraphrase it as far as I have it understood, and I'm gonna look it up as I'm. If you want to look it up as I'm telling you to see how much of this I got right,
Yeah, that's
because
what I'm
I don't
doing.
want to like type. Yeah, I don't want to type and do it that way. So
Yeah.
as far as I understand the boyfriend loophole, what it is, right, is that if you like basically like a domestic abuser, if you had domestic issues with your partner, or you have things of that nature, the the NRA wants to almost help the NRA, which is not the actual people who like that are NRA. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to say employees, but are like a part of the NRA, like the everyday people, right? That like have the NRA stickers and go to the meetings, like the board, right? Like the people who take the money from the gun companies and all that shit. Like they have a boyfriend loophole that was put into in 1994 in the Violence Against Women Act, right? Which I'll give Joe Biden that credit. He helped write that bill, right? When you go into that, like there's had the boyfriend loophole, which protects women against men who domestically abuse them, beat them up, beat up their families. They're just, it's a terrible situation. So you stop people like that from the ability to get a gun. Right now, I think for the last 18 months or 2 years, it's been that stopped in the Senate, right? To get like almost reaffirmed, like to continue that thing. Because why? Because that limits more people to get guns, right? Again, like you could go into it where in 2016, when Barack Obama was still in office, the last thing this Congress did before they went into the old Congress did before they went into new elections, they passed a bill that allowed mentally handicapped people, people who can't take care of themselves, people who can't work, who have who are schizophrenic, who have all these different kind of mental health issues, or have the ability to get guns. There's people who I've talked to that are super pro 2A that didn't know anything about that till I sent them the link, because everybody goes with the argument, oh man, it's mental health issues. Dude, that doesn't stop you from getting a gun. That in no way deters you from getting a gun. That's all shit that we keep saying as far along with thoughts and prayers. So this guy, his name was Christopher Brewster. Rest in peace to him. All the prayers up to his family. Sorry that your son, your husband, your brother, your friend had to lose his life. But so this guy Arturo Solis, right, killed him as soon as he responded to the call. He was dead. Like he got shot right there instantly, but like he was gone. They killed him. So then the police chief, I don't know if I sent you the link. I thought about putting it in this video, but we'll put it in the next one to start it off. The police chief called everybody out, like John Cornyn, which is the Senate representative from Texas. He called Mitch McConnell because he's blocked this at every turn. Mitch McConnell, at last count, takes $3 million a year from the NRA. Again, not the daily people who support guns and are 2A, because even they understand that you need federal background checks at a 97% clip. Right now, there's nothing federally mandated to have everybody get a background check. I'm a supporter of that as well. But the boyfriend loophole is not that I've talked about with my boy Frank. Me and you have had discussions with him on Facebook. You know what I mean? Like we talked about that. Like, oh, he told me about that. He was the first person to tell me about that. That actually isn't a law that's being enforced right now because they haven't reaffirmed it. So when they opened up that loophole, right, and instead of closing it and making sure that nobody with that kind of issue can get a gun, they opened it up because why? You get more people to buy guns, right? It's all about profit. It's all about income.
The Lautenberg Amendment, right? Because
right.
And I'm like, okay, I thought they had something in place for that. So that's while you were talking, and I'm listening, and then I looked up Lautenberg Amendment, and it talks about the boyfriend loophole. And so Lautenberg applies to only a spouse, a cohabitant, or someone that had a child with that person. So yeah, that's a hell of a loophole. I mean,
yeah,
that's. So if
you
dated somebody for 2 years and they beat the crap out of you, and they were convicted of whether it was a misdemeanor or felony or whatever, but they were convicted of a domestic violence act, crime. It doesn't apply to them. I'm shaking my head. It doesn't apply to them because you weren't married or you didn't have a kid.
Yep.
But you had an intimate relationship with this person for 6 months or 10 or a year or 2 or 5. That's wow.
Yeah, bro.
That's like an insurance company trying to find a loophole to not to pay you for something. They're looking for a loophole on how to sell more weapons.
Exactly. That's all they're doing, bro. Like what is the purpose of taking away the rights of people who are clearly who science and doctors and hospitals have determined are literally insane? Mm-hmm. What is the point of opening them up to have the ability to get guns? Then I if you argue against me with that, then I'm walking away from that conversation because you don't care. Your every argument, it's not a Second Amendment thing, right? Because if you're literally putting lives in danger, this police officer was killed by something that should have been prevented on every level. But because there's no federal background checks as far as looking into this guy, and even if there was federal background checks, right, they couldn't have stopped him anyway because the boyfriend loophole is wide fucking open.
Yeah,
it's an open hallway. It's an open highway at 2 a.m., bro.
It's pretty clear they had to be a spouse or a cohabitant. That's crazy,
dude. Like how? Like what the fuck, man? Like again, like I get so frustrated because. Again, we talked about it before on the several episodes that we have. You and I are both gun owners, right? We both have guns. I just went to my most recent gun show, which I'm going to tell you a story about that in a second. You know what I mean? Like you have all these things where, like, dude, like I clearly know not everybody should have a gun, but what you do to the opposite of that is make it easier for people with mental health issues or clearly people who are violent because they beat up men, women, and children. Because you could be a domestic abuser and being like in a gay relationship, you know what I mean,
or your kids or whatever,
or your kids, anything. You've clearly shown a propensity to be violent, and you're allowed to get a gun. What other purpose of that other than profit can you possibly sell me on? What
Well,
other purpose?
well, I misspoke. Not kids. So, but your boyfriend or your girlfriend, yeah,
Yeah, your
as
boyfriend,
long as you
girlfriend.
weren't cohabitating or married, then it's okay if you beat the crap out of your boyfriend or ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend. You can still get a gun.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
totally fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine, bro. So so
As a
this
matter
last
of
story, we'll
fact,
go
you buy one, you get the second one 75% off.
100%, and you get and another thing, you get some hollow points that are literally just to kill cops. So
Yeah,
there's
what do you need
that,
hollow
boy.
points for?
All right, exactly. Why are hollow points a thing? They're literally called cop killers. You like somebody can, let's say, this hypothetical ass conversation, right? You're
Yeah,
never gonna have you're never gonna get into a shootout with somebody else that's also wearing bulletproof vests. Like,
yeah,
that's not gonna happen, right? Like, you're the only time that happens is when you're shooting at cops. Why are bullets that can kill cops made? Why? Right? Like, just the little things. That's all I'm asking. Like, if somebody
just
can
a little.
explain to me in the comments when they watch this video back, if they watched an hour and 1 minute of this, could tell me why hollow points are made and a justification. Hey, bro, you mind? You hear my dog in the back just
Yeah,
scratching away at that? Yeah, ridiculous. But yeah, man. So I'll tell you the story and we'll wrap it up with the gun shit. So I go to my first gun show a couple weeks back. I think it was a month ago now. And funny story, the guy who's working security went to our high school, bro. I think might have very much so graduated with you because you graduated before me,
yeah. Oh,
right?
one.
I think he might have
Yeah,
graduated. Obviously, you're not going to remember him. I didn't recognize him. I didn't know him, but he went to our high school. Like, he went to our high school during, like, when we had like the 7,000 kids that one
yeah.
year because that other high school was closed. So, like, he went there during that time. We talked about that whole thing. So I go there I've never gone to a gun show before. Had no idea what it was like. I've only seen like videos or whatever, like so I go in there
It's a good time.
and I'm just looking for a holster. I see a bunch of guns I can't recognize, I can't name. They look like fucking Gears of War guns. I don't know what these things are, right? Like, I'm
Yeah,
just seeing these shits. So I'm just looking in there for a holster for my smaller handgun and one for my full gun, right? So I walk in there and then I talk to a guy from Miami. He's the one selling guns and selling holsters, so I buy it from him. But I overhear a conversation because I was wondering about the gun show loophole as well, right?
mm-hmm.
So I go in there and I overhear a guy like, "I know I'm from out of state." Like, I heard bits, like, a little bit. It was a quick conversation. Like, going
Right.
from out of state. Is there anything, like, almost like, is there anything I could buy? He's like, well, I can't sell. The only thing I can sell you are rifles. I can't sell you handguns. I was like, wait a second, what? Like, how does how does that, like, the first thing I thought I wanted to ask, but I'm you know what I mean. I was aware of my surroundings, where I'm like, I probably shouldn't ask that, being who I am and where I'm at.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was a lot of like T-shirts of like Confederate flags and whatever. So I just overhear it and I'm just like, how does that make sense? Like, wait, so you could sell him the thing that's used to kill the most amount of people. Mind you, this conversation doesn't go very long, right? Like, okay, you
Right.
want to buy this gun? All right, cool. You know what I mean? Sell him the gun that can kill the most amount of people without a background check. You get it right then and there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, dude, I'm like in a small, like, you know, our gym back in high school,
Yeah.
right? It's about that size, right? Like, that's how small the place is. There's like a bunch of like pop-up tables with guns all over it, holsters, mace, which I bought for my wife for protection because
Yeah.
this shit's crazy out here. Till she gets her concealed weapons and feels more comfortable with it. But, dude, like, just that interaction, I was like, yo, that's like, how does that alone make sense? Like, I gotta look more into that, but like, just that interaction of like, you could buy an AR-15 right now, but I
Right.
can't sell you a 9mm. Like, I didn't understand that interaction of it. It was crazy.
I had a little bit of that. Like, if you're like private party sales is what it is, right? So like, if you're referring to the gun show loophole or the private
Right.
sale exemption or whatever that is. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
Like, if you go to a shop, then there's certain they have to meet like federal background standards. But if you're buying from a private seller, it's a completely different set of rules, right?
Yep.
I know because I gotta use so
Yeah.
it got fired like a couple of times. I mean, I knew the person, but like they're like, oh no, well if I sell you, I have a new one and I have this one. But this one is, this new one, we'd have to go through all this paperwork because the person owned a shop. But this other one that's been fired just a few times for like test fire and stuff, we don't have to go through it because it's considered use. Oh yeah, I'll take that one. I don't feel like going through all this. Now at the time I was, whatever. I mean, I had a clearance and all this to maintain, so it's not like I was breaking any laws, and I wouldn't. The background check would come find something on me, but it's just that easy to where you can bypass all these things that have been put in place because there are loopholes that are. It seems like it's evident that we have these laws sort of like as a safe or false sense of security, and then we have all these loopholes that are obvious means and ways to bypass these laws. So it's almost pointless having these laws there. They say, oh no, we have laws in place to deal with this, but these loopholes make it so easy to legally
Yep.
go around these laws that are in place. And again,
And
I'm not saying that again, take people's guns away because I'm a gun owner, but you definitely there should be something making it more difficult. There should be a higher barrier of entry for someone that wants to buy a killing machine, because that's what it is. I don't care if it's something that's like really tiny and it fits in your freaking purse or whatever it is, like your clutch if you're a woman. It's made for one reason, and that's to put people down. It might take a couple more shots, but that's the only thing it's meant there for. And that's fine if you need it for protection, but at the end of the day, it's meant to put people down. If you're gonna pull that thing out, if you're gonna pull it out, use it. Like, you're not pulling your weapon, right, to not use it. If it gets to the point where you have to pull it out, that's because you're about to pull the trigger, and or else the gun shouldn't come out in the first place. Like, you shouldn't be in a situation, if it's coming out, it's because like that's your last resort. And we have these loopholes that make it easy for anyone to pick that up. Anyone with any intentions. There's no checks. There's nothing. And gun shows, those things are. I've been to one. I was to one when I was in South Carolina, I think. I mean, they're like the circus, right? They travel. They go to this one spot for a weekend. They pack up and they go on to the next town or next city, and it's like that everywhere throughout the states. And I mean,
everywhere.
Like I said, I've been to them, but it's too easy. It's just way too easy for anybody to grab a gun.
Yeah, like, and the thing is, like, think about it like this, right? Like, how is that? Like, that's for the common person, it's terrifying, right? But it's also terrifying for police, right? Because when everybody can get a gun, like, of course they're gonna be on high alert and all, especially if they look into the stuff that we've looked into, like the fact that mentally ill people can get them and all this stuff. You're gonna be terrified, right? Like, that's just natural human nature, because you're putting your life on the line every time you pull somebody over for speeding, for anything, because you never know. So, dude, like, I don't like, who does it protect? Nobody, right? Like, just on the thinnest of levels, on the thinnest of sheets. Like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't let mentally ill people get guns. No, we're gonna fight you on that. All right, maybe we shouldn't let people who are clearly violent not get guns. No, we're gonna fight you on that too. And we got the power because we're the Senate, and we're gonna let it happen. And so what you get is this situation where a cop is murdered, and he doesn't get to go home, and is carried in a cage in a box by 6 people for something that could have been prevented. Right? There's situations in all those times when, like, things can be prevented, but this is one that's clear and evident, bro. Like, if the police chief himself, who has probably 30 years of service, can fucking say it, I can say it. You know what I mean? Like, you're putting lives at risk at every level, bro. Where you have the mass shooters, like the ones that have shot on military bases and all this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When you open up this gaping hole where everybody can get a gun, there's gonna be some sick fucks out there that justifiably got a gun, right?
Yeah,
like,
and I mean,
got a gun, but in every mean.
Yeah, and that's the reason why police are. I get it; they're highly trained, and the ones that are on patrol on a regular basis, especially in certain areas that have more crime, like, they're on high alert. But it's like a different kind of high alert, right? Because at any given point, they must be assuming this person could be armed, especially if it's someone that's like, if it's not like a bullshit traffic stop because you're trying to get a quota or whatever, like the Sandra Bland thing we
Right.
talked about, where you just
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
which escalated. But yeah, I mean, if at any given point, like that's got to be the assumption. Like on the forefront is this person could be armed, and so their reaction, no matter how highly trained is, they're assuming that someone's got a gun, and that's going to drive how they're going to react to situations, which is probably shoot first, ask questions later. And I get it
Yeah.
because they got to keep themselves safe, but at the same time, it's like making it so easy for everyone to get a gun is then altering the way that police interact with people because they're assuming that everyone
Yeah.
they interact with has a gun and is going to use it against them.
Yeah. Dude, like I'll tell you,
It's
like
a
I went
pretty
to.
vicious circle.
It's a terrible circle. It's a terrible circle, which I don't even know. We're not gonna solve it on this podcast. We're just talking about it.
Yeah.
But like I went to like a couple. I want to say like a year ago now. Who knows when it was? But I go every morning. Most mornings I go to the gas station and I get like my coffee or my energy drink because I'm getting up super fucking early. And you know what I mean. Like one day I went there and like this guy was like bending over to like get water because water's on the lower shelf, and he bent over and he had like a gun in his back pocket. Dude, I was like on a holster. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this, man? Like I said, yo, what the? And he like tucked the shirt, and I was like, dude, like, are you? Because I'm supposed to just assume you're one of the good guys,
right?
Like at this moment right now, like I'm in my scrubs, I don't have anything on me. I'm fucked if this guy just decides he wants to shoot up the place.
Right.
Like you could just carry your fucking gun, and you're like, yo, what are you doing, man? Like it was fucking like yo, like that, and that's me, right? Like I'm just some asshole that was going to a gas station that just happened to randomly see this guy with his gun. Like imagine a cop, bro. Like when there's I think twice the amount of guns that there is amount of people in this country. Like you're gonna be shitting bricks every time. Like I'm just looking at it through my eyes. It's gonna be fucking insane. Yeah. I don't know.
Hey, this was
more. Man. What's up, man? I got answers all day.
Yeah. Bro,
no.
How do you change a freaking headlight on the Suzuki Kisashi? How do you do that?
How the fuck would I know that, bro? YouTube.
I don't know, bro. Ask YouTube, right?
Yeah, ask fucking YouTube, bro. You're the fucking man. You know what? Good one, son. If I could, I'd give you a high five. Well, like a low five. Because
if I could, I'd give you a high five.
Yeah, there you go. That's because it'd be like just a chest five, dude. How amazing is YouTube?
Bro, it's everything.
Dude, I learned how to clear a fucking sink yesterday watching YouTube. I'm not a fucking plumber. You know how I did it? I unscrewed the little C cup at the bottom, right? Because that's what the guy called it. The little C cup at the bottom, took it off, hand tightened.
Loosened it up. Bigger. It used to be a B cup before.
Oh yeah, I did. Thank you. I'm glad you noticed. I went on botched. But so did that, right? Took it off. A bunch of shit fell out. It was fucking disgusting. And then you take out the drain plug, right? The little drain plug that you know, the little thing you press the button on if you don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Lift up the lever, and you take that out, and then you push a newspaper through, right? You make it thin, and that's it. Dude, like I was like, I would have probably had to pay a plumber like $250 to do this shit. Because they charge whatever they want to charge. I watched a 6-minute YouTube video, and I was done.
Yeah, I was serious about the car though, because that's how I figured it out. Like,
I've never heard of that car. I assumed you made that car up because you were watching some hentai.
It is a Suzuki. Now Suzuki went back or out of business in the U.S., but they still make cars in Japan. But it's called a Kizashi, Kizashi, something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, but they make it fucking impossible to change a headlight. Like on some of my cars, you could just pop the hood, reach behind the headlight assembly, turn the cap, and pull the light bulb out. No, everything is so crammed in this car that you have to remove the entire bumper and then unscrew and take the headlight assembly out. And so I'm like, I mean, I'm not doing this shit. I don't have a shop, but I looked it up on YouTube, and there's like, I don't know how many people. All the results. And I went through a few videos, and I found one that said, yep, you just got to do this, and this. So I grabbed my tools, and it took me a bit because I didn't want to like lose screws and all this shit and make sure that it's my car. You know what I mean? Like I want to make sure I can get to work.
Yeah.
And especially up here in the wintertime, like light bulbs go out like crazy, especially the damn light bulbs on this car when it gets cold. But I was like popping, like just dropping my bumper and putting everything back together. It takes about 30 minutes to replace both. But that was YouTube. Watched a 10-minute video a couple times, pause it in the right spots, and it saved me I don't know how many hundreds of dollars from going to the damn shop to get it done for me. I mean, my oldest son's got a room in the basement. How? Because we damn watched YouTube and figured out how to frame walls and hang drywall properly and all sorts of shit. You just do it. I mean, it's some
Dude,
of the things that I'm looking at, like learning as far as business wise and exploring. That I've have some classes, I paid for some classes and stuff like that, but a lot of the stuff is free. The internet has everything that you can use. Now these classes put everything like in one concise package, but if you're just willing to piecemeal stuff together, YouTube has the answer. You know, one video might not have everything, but it'll have something that another video doesn't have, and I use it for just about everything. Like you don't need a college degree. It's like, go ahead.
No, at all. No, at all. Like I'll tell you, like my wife bought it for her birthday. We bought her a Cricut, right?
Right.
So we bought her a Cricut, and like a Cricut, like is this thing that like you could like customize anything you want to customize, like mugs, t-shirt, you know what it is. So I sat there with her watching YouTube videos. Like I'm watching it, and I'm like, yo, this is like some magic shit. Like I don't understand what the fuck how you peel this stuff off and stick it on here, and she's out there killing it. Like she's doing it right now, like making a bunch of like holiday ornaments and stuff like that. She's out there doing her thing. So it's like, dude, like I'm like, it's all right there. Like I'll talk to like doctors that I work with or whatever, and like one of them loves taking pictures, like beautiful. He's a photographer on the side because he just likes to take. And he watched like a Harvard course on photography on YouTube for free, bro.
Yeah,
like some Harvard photographer that's a professor gave an entire class, and you could watch the entire course from beginning to end. You can find lectures. There's anything you need is on YouTube.
Right.
Anything. Like I needed to change out the headlights on my Tundra when I bought it because I wanted LED headlights because LED headlights are way brighter. They're better. They get more of the side of the road and stuff like that.
Yeah,
because I live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
LED lights all day, bro, all day. And buy them. I'll tell you right now, buy them on eBay. Don't go to the store because on eBay you could get them for like $8, and they'll be there in like 3 days, and you're good.
Yeah.
So I put those in, and it was the same thing. Twist, plug, done. You have to unscrew a couple little things. Mine had to because man, you have to and do it that way because you might not be able to get your hand through.
Right.
But dude, it's like the same thing. I put my my phone on the engine, like because I had the pop socket, and I just pause it in different things. Like, okay, this is what I got to do now. And you can put in like you can put in like the year that you have. You know what I mean? Like I think it's like a 2013. Like a 2013 Toyota Tundra removing headlight bulbs. Bomb, done. Figuring out how to, easiest fucking thing. Figuring out how to use this software that we're on right now, bro.
Right.
Like this light stream, the website you told me about, I watch YouTube clips on how to use this shit. You know what I mean?
All the tutorials are there. It walks you through how to use it.
Yeah, it walks you through how to use it. Learning how to use Canva that made this layout for us and all the other layouts. Like all this stuff is YouTube. Because first of all, it works great for me because I'm a visual learner.
Right.
And so it works, you know what I mean? I'm able to learn a lot of shit doing it this way. Dude, but it's fucking insane, bro. And again, obviously it has the greatness of like the YouTube.
What's that?
Yeah, good. Now it has the greatness of the YouTube black hole, but go ahead.
That you can go down the rabbit hole and get lost pretty quickly, right? Yes. But I mean, you have like the subject matter expert right there. You have a Harvard professor, and you can just hit rewind or go back 10 seconds. Like the lecture, it's not a one time and done. So anything that you need to do, you can find it on there, whether it's for school, whether it's for work, whether it's you're trying a new business venture, whether you're trying to figure out how to do Facebook ads and whatever it is, like changing light bulbs, because that was the reason with my car, you can't fit your hand behind that damn headlight assembly. And I was trying to figure out a way to do it. And unfortunately, I had to drop the front bumper, but they walked you through that whole process. I mean, any day, like if anyone comes up to me, I have 2 kids. My kids come up to me and they'll ask me a question. And, a lot of times we'll have a discussion, whatever. Hey, let's go back and forth. But when they ask me an obvious question, I'm like, dude, you have a supercomputer in your pocket. Like, what are you doing? Go use that.
Yep.
Come back to me if like that supercomputer that has all the answers that have ever been given in the universe since the beginning of time. If it's not in there, then you can ask me. But if that doesn't have it, I don't know how much more I'll be able to help you. But we'll tackle it together from there. But you got to do your part first and get on there. YouTube, Google. If I can, you have no excuse.
Yeah.
If you can't find it, you've given it a good faith effort. Either there is no answer, or we're about to come up with a hell of a business because we're about to solve a problem that hasn't been solved before.
Exactly, dude. It's fucking insane, bro. It's again, this podcast after this will be on YouTube. Everything is on YouTube. You could find like the top 10 scariest lists of haunted houses, and then you could go into like how to decorate your 1,200 square foot room. You know, there's everything and any like which paintings, which colors are better for this room and to make it look bigger or smaller. You know, like there's all information. If you wanted to learn by reading it, you got Google. If you wanted to learn visually, watching videos step by step, you got YouTube.
Right, and you said it,
dude. It's all right.
Like you use the examples of Canva and how to use the software. Like you yourself, if you wanted to, you probably have enough experience now to where you can create your own YouTube video to show someone how to set it up. Like, because I mean, there's a lot of them, right? Explaining a lot of stuff, but people have different teaching styles, different tone, how they teach, how they speak, and some people learn better for whatever reason from different people. So you could create your own tutorial on like, hey, this is how you set up a stream to go to Facebook or go to YouTube on Lightstream. And this is how you create overlays in Canva. Like you could, because you have the experience now to where even if it's at a certain level, a basic level, and you're not like at the super user level, because neither am I, but you can create a tutorial for someone who's trying to figure out how do I get online? How do I do this? So
dude, like I watch videos like because I was looking at like because we've done podcasts and chats and all this stuff through like different softwares. Like we've used Zoom. We try to figure out how to do OBS, Streamlight OBS, and all these different softwares, right? That some people might not ever look at, whatever. So we looked at all these things, and it was all through YouTube, and we're like, okay, this isn't going to work. And then we eventually settled on this one because it's a hosting site. It keeps the layout. It's amazing. Big fan of the Lightstream, right? I'm gonna try to holler at them and see if I can get them as a sponsor. Yada yada yada. But you know what I mean? Like it's all these things that you just learn by typing it in, and just it shows you there's nothing that dude, like you said, that if you find something that isn't on YouTube or Google, which is the same thing, right? If you can't find it there, you can't find it anywhere. It doesn't exist, right? It's not a thing. Like nobody ever asked that question before in the history of life, dude. You could literally type in a question that's on a test. Not that I've done it, but I've heard that's on a test that you're taking, and you might find the quiz, yo. Like
you might find all of it, maybe theoretically, hypothetically.
You might find you might hypothetically. So I've heard allegedly, maybe. I don't know. Some people say, all right.
Yeah, it's been heard. Third parties have said.
Third parties have said. Somebody, I know a guy who knew a guy that talked about a thing once.
That's right. Me too. I know that same guy.
So yeah, no, we know the same person. It's that guy with the hair.
Yeah.
Right. So look, man, I wanted to tell you this live because actually I just looked down on Facebook and we actually got some interactions, which is cool. So I wanted to shout out.
Go ahead.
No, your brother didn't say anything. I think he said you looked shorter in person. Hold on, let me look at it right now. No, he didn't say anything. No, but I feel like he should have said that. So I want to say thank you everybody who watched. But I got some news for you guys. So this man, I always point the wrong way. So this guy right here, this little guy, is going to be my official co-host of the podcast. Right, starting next year, we're going to try to do. Starting actually Sunday again, we're going to be doing this every Sunday and Wednesday, schedule allowing. So if I ever can't get on the podcast, he will be your host. He'll have guests on. He might have his kid on. That's obviously the way better version of him. Let's just be real about that. He just is, right? No, he is. Like, bro, like you should just have like videos of him like flipping his hair back because he's got that like Filipino straight hair, which just it's he's killing it right there.
He's got like that anime hair. It's perfect.
Yeah, dude, he's got the anime hair where it's like where he feels like he could either kill you or be your best friend. It's very debatable on which one he is. You know what I mean? He might be the bad guy or he might be the good guy.
That's true in real life too. Depends.
Yeah, no, I figured that. So yeah, man. So Jonathan's gonna be the official co-host of the podcast, man. we're gonna try to get my boy Trent on here. I think I told you about him because all this human trafficking stuff. Like he actually has a growth like a nonprofit that helps law enforcement agencies like track down people and help people out with all the human trafficking shit. Like give warning signs. I've had him on my other podcast back when it was like in my own words, like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I
It's
remember
actually
watching.
one of my highest rated podcasts because it was crazy. I still remember the story of like the darknet video he saw of like the lady getting her head drilled. Sorry, I should have probably her lady getting her head drilled because like they live streamed it and people watched and paid and all this shit. So because there's been a lot of human trafficking shit happen on in Florida, man. Like Orlando is one of the highest human trafficked areas in the country or in the world because of Disney. You
Right.
have Tampa now because of the ports. So just wanted to put that out there. That's going to be happening soon. I'm going to reach out to him. He's always ready. Hopefully, I'll get him and his wife because they actually started. It's called the Anti-Predator Project, and Jonathan should be getting on the podcast soon with El Tiburon, aka our boy Danny, that was in a it's like a Spanish survivor, right? Because that's kind of like a
Yeah,
Spanish
yeah,
survivor mixed with American Ninja Warrior, right?
yeah. It's like a American Ninja Warrior mixed with like is a Survivor. I mean, Survivor slash
I'm
American Gladiator slash
yeah,
what's that the
yeah.
LeBron James or Curry show the fastest mile or Miracle Mile or some craziness where like you get
Yeah,
a head
like that.
start and you got to
Yeah,
run a mile.
yeah,
So
it's crazy shit. So he was on there, and before
Exatlon,
him, yeah, Exatlon. Was it Exatlon or is Exatlon? Is
Exatlon,
it EXATLAON?
Yeah,
Yeah,
EXATLON.
yeah. So he was on there, and actually before him, George Masvidal was on there the season before,
Right.
being the baddest motherfucker on the planet. So you know what I mean. So we're looking forward to having him on the podcast. But like I always say, man, this podcast is going to constantly grow and evolve. So this last segment, we're working on the title, so we're not going to give you a title for that right now. So it's going to be like our last thoughts, right? Like separate from the podcast. So I'm gonna go first, let my boy here and see if we got something lined up for it. So this is gonna be just me on this picture. Let's go send to live. Bam, 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 bam. All right. As you know, I always talk politics on the podcast and discuss it here and then discuss it lightly. But one thing I just wanted to touch on for like this final time, right? Because I don't want to address it again. You guys know my stance. You know me personally. You're watching this Facebook. You're watching this on YouTube. If you want to identify me as anything, it's going to be progressive, liberal, Democrat, whatever. But one thing that doesn't shine with me and that's not cool with me is when you go, oh, but what if so and so, like, what if your political person, like if it's Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, all these people, what if it was them that did this? I was like, yeah, bro, put them in jail. Like if you're gonna the false equivalency of, oh man, if Barack did this, he would have been fine with it. No man, he should go to jail too. Like you got these cases of impeachment, these articles of impeachment that are happening because he clearly did this wrong. He's on videotape saying the countries, he's on videotape reaching out to other countries. If that was any of the people that are on the left of it, they should all go to jail. They should all be taken out of office because no one person is bigger than our democracy. And once you start arguing that that person is, or arguing the process and all this shit, you've lost me, man. You've started to illegitimize our democracy. I'm not cool with that at all whatsoever. You shouldn't be either. If Barack Obama did this, he should be taken out of office. If Bernie Sanders did this, he should be taken out of office. If Elizabeth Warren taken out of office, Hillary Clinton taken out of office, Amy Klobuchar taken out of office, Andrew Yang taken out of office. You name the Democrat, they should all be out of office because no one person is bigger than our democracy. You have to stop fanaticizing about wouldn't give a fuck about you if they saw you anywhere else outside of a rally. You have to stop that, man. It's not a good look, bro. It's fucking unhealthy. Like I understand fanaticism, right? I was obsessed with the Miami Dolphins. I cried when Greg Camarillo scored that one touchdown to beat the Ravens. I understand it. It's irrational and it's unhealthy. But those Greg Camarillo doesn't put in policies or put people in power or get bribed or have people who are European ambassadors paid $1 million for that position. That didn't happen. That's just a motherfucking wide receiver that didn't have a career after that. Fanaticizing a person that doesn't know you and doesn't care about you is unhealthy, bro. Like again, I've ran down the names of every Democrat that matters that might be president, which I'm honestly not too hopeful for, because this whole shit is rigged in a way. So once that, you should separate yourself from your fanaticism and your voting. If you can't do that, then I can't have that conversation anyway. It doesn't matter who you are. There's people in my family who have blocked me because of it. Dude, like, no one person you should put above your family. Motherfucker, we gonna be here after when this guy's still rich. So get that shit through your thick ass head, man. That's just my last thoughts on this shit, man. I'm not addressing this again, ever again. We'll talk policies and different shit. But that right there, these 3 minutes are the last I'll ever spend on this shit, because it's exhausting. I'm not gonna go back and forth with you on your social media with your stupid ass memes or stupid ass anti-immigrant or anti-Muslim or anti-anything. I'm not going with you anymore, bro. I'm done. You're exhausting, and honestly, you're not worth the time, because for what? These last 3 minutes is all you're getting from me, man. After this is writing on policies, and let's have those debates. But if you don't know them, then let's not have that conversation. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. If anybody else did this on the left side of it, bullshit stuff, bullshit labeling of it, they should go to prison. They should be taken out of office because they did it, right? He's on video, bro. Video. He fucking said it. He said it. If there was video of Bernie Sanders saying this same shit for his own political advantage, his own, not the country's, not anybody else's, but his, investigating his political opponent, whoever the fuck that is, that person, he should be automatically taken out of his run and taken out of office. Period. Point blank. Punto y aparte. Pa que sepan, carajo.
Well, I'm gonna try to lighten the mood a little bit. First, by saying that that's a lie. That's not gonna be the last you hear of it. So, if you want to hear more of this dude pouring his heart out and his love for Bernie and how he idolizes him, you'll hear more of it, I'm sure. No, man, look, I'm not even gonna talk politics. What I'm gonna say is, I start every day, and this is gonna sound corny, but there's a lot of negative stuff going on in the world, a lot of stuff that we actually think affects us that doesn't affect us, and we just kind of make too big of a deal out of it. And maybe it's because I've read too many of these like self-development books or whatever. But I start every day, like maybe not in the morning, but on the ride to work, on the days that I go to work, I take some time to just kind of be grateful, just kind of take everything in and think about like what I have, like how fortunate I've been, where I've come from, where I was born, which is Venezuela, and how what a terrible situation that country's in, and I still have family there that I talk to, and the things they're going through, and they're trying to figure out how to get the hell out of there, because that country's been set back generations, and they need to get out of there, not just for themselves but for their kids, because and their kids, they want them to have a future, and they need to make a move. And I left when I was about six and a half years old, and not a day goes by, especially with the last the new regime since Maduro took over a few years ago. It's gotten progressively worse. And then when I came to the States, I went through some stuff. My mom went through some stuff. Like you and I don't know, I come from a place where I'm not supposed to be where I'm at right now. I'm not. And that's not saying that I'm doing great things, but I'm fortunate for what I have, and I'm fortunate for the opportunities that I've had so far. And that's regardless of political, where you stand on the political spectrum. Like it's been because, one, I still try to have faith in people. Like I say this all the time, where I used to be a people person and then people ruined it for me. But that's not completely true, right? Because everything that I've done, one, yeah, sure, I have that whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality. I put in the work and I study or I do whatever it is, but at the end of the day, someone's got to give me a chance. I got to try to put myself in certain positions, but someone's got to take a chance on me, whether it's promoting me when I was in the Army, giving me an opportunity, an interview, and then hiring and promoting me after the fact. That's all people. So regardless of politics, those people that hired me and promoted me and did all this, we didn't stand on the same plane politically, but we connected as people. My neighbor is a staunch Republican. And I said I'm not going to talk politics because I'm not. I just keep saying Republican and Democrat or whatever, but I'm just pointing out facts. But that dude, he's got Trump stickers on his car, NRA stickers on the back of his Mercedes, and he was the very first person that welcomed me into the neighborhood. And my stuff wasn't here in the house yet, so he lent me his lawnmower so I can mow my lawn. And anything that I need help with to this day, he's there. We went to a charity event for the Chamber of Commerce for the city I live in, and he put us in contact with um, someone that's high ranking in the VFW here. Like, he's big for veterans, supports veterans. I was looking for a veteran community, and he's like, yeah, I know somebody, and he just put me in touch with them. But not only that, like, I was able to meet people of importance here in the community, in the Chamber of Commerce, in the political arena, and we have a standing, like, as neighbors, my wife and I and his wife and I and a couple other neighbors, every Friday or every other Friday, depending on our schedules, we get together and we go out. They have like a wine tasting or beer tasting, and we go and get together and just have a beer and eat and talk. Because at the end of the day, no matter where you stand, whether you're far right, far left, somewhere in the middle, you still got to live with each other. And man, he might not agree with, might not view things the way I see them, but at the end of the day, I'm so grateful for having him as a neighbor. I have this little man right here who's got the anime hair. Where you at? All you got to do is just, you see the hair flip, and he's got the anime hair. And my oldest son,
I mean, look at the hair.
Yeah. My oldest son is at work right now.
No, give the hair a second, right? That was a good. But let's give that's some anime hair, bro. That's legendary hair there. I mean, that is amazing. Yeah, like I can't do that, bro. I can't do that.
And I'm losing mine, so my oldest son who's at work, my wife. I mean, that's who I'm grateful for. Like, regardless of all the crazy stuff that's going on, like, we at the end of the day, I think we can all at least agree to disagree, right? Have a conversation on whatever it is we're having, and agree to disagree and still get along. Like, just be amicable, be civil, be human beings. Like, I'm sorry you took it to a crazy level with your love for Bernie. I'm just kidding, but I had to. I say Bernie. Huh? I know. I'm just putting words in your mouth because it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we got to be grateful, and that's whether it's 30 seconds, whether it's a minute, you can call it meditating, you call it whatever it is. That's a separate thing, man. It makes such a big difference when you just kind of start your day like that, and it's corny, whatever, but it's if you just kind of change your attitude a little bit, the way you see things, start the day on a positive note, even if you know that you're gonna have a shitty job you're gonna go into, you don't like your boss, your coworkers, whatever it is. Like, you got to try to flip things where, like, you know what? At least I have a job and I have the opportunity to do other things. Like, people have different problems, but if you just kind of try to switch the circumstances, and I can't speak for everybody, and I've been better off than some other people, and I've had opportunities, and I'm fortunate, and I'm grateful for that every single day, because I know that it could change regardless of, like, how educated I may think I am or how many degrees I want to pursue or whatever. Like, that stuff could be taken away. And so, just be grateful. I said all that to just say, be grateful, because that to me is huge.
Well, thank you for that self-help speech. And
hey,
I just want to say, hey, I feel you. No, I'm just fucking with you. But no, man, I think me and you had very similar childhoods, right? Like, we lived literally in the same area for most of our lives. You know what I mean? We have a similar background. So when you said that, you look around and sometimes you're like, man, like, I shouldn't be here. Like, I shouldn't have accomplished what I've accomplished. I totally felt that. Like, it's 100% true. Like, don't let that singular rant ever make you think that, or anybody else think that, I'm not grateful for every second. Like, there's a dude, like, every day I wake up and I look like, I walk outside or I get up from my bedroom and leave my I live in a house that I never thought I'd be able to afford. I live in a place that I never thought I'd be able to have. I have all these things that I'm 100% grateful for every day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever take it for granted. I don't ever think that I don't want to say that I'm not worthy of it or shit like that, but dude, it's like this is like I have a lot of like this is crazy moments like all the time. Like every day when I come home, like yo, I get to come home to this. Like this is my home. Like I grew up moving around all over Miami.
Right.
You know, I grew up like living with, you know what I mean. My mom having odd jobs and living with friends and all like just living in a bedroom. You know what I mean, and all this shit. Like I know that whole struggle. So like to be where I'm at now is insane, man. And just to be dude, like just to be able to do this podcast, you know what I mean? Like having the means to do this, like getting this microphone, getting this camera, this laptop, and having even having a friend like you, bro, for over 20 years. What did you write? Is that the smallest handwriting ever? What is it? I can't read that. Well, get it closer. That really was corny.
That
Is
was
that what
my
he said to
son.
you?
That's what my
To be
son
great?
just, yeah, he's like off screen. That's what he's like, hey, all right, go away.
That's you know what? I'm looking forward to that podcast you guys do together. It's weird, right? Because like I rarely listen to my own podcast back, but that's why I'm looking forward to like you being the co-host and you having people on because like I'll get to appreciate what I'm doing here and what we're gonna do continue to do in the future and how
Right.
it continues to grow. Like dude, like we used to remember like the first like 5 or 6 podcasts that we did at the very beginning was like through Skype and you were like in your I think you had just moved into your house or like an apartment and you had
Yeah.
like the headphone like the
Yeah.
you had the headphones in and you would talk, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna continue to grow and evolve and you know what I mean? Like I love this shit. Like I love this is my like my wife has her crafting shit, her crafting stuff, and this is my thing that I get to create. You know what I mean? Like this is my thing, and I love this shit. Like this all started. We talked about it. This all started from a Joe Rogan podcast when he had Russell Brand on. Like that podcast just inspired me to want to do this more. I do like the fact that there was 6 people just commenting on this in Facebook is crazy to me. You know what I mean? That they took that time out to even write anything. And these are, you
Right.
know, I mean, these are my friends and my family and all this stuff. Like my cousin Mikey, who's in the Coast Guard up in Boston. I'm sure he's gonna be moving somewhere else soon. You know what I mean? Like commented on there, he talked about the VA stuff. The fact that they took the time out to listen, I heavily appreciate it. You know what I mean? I'm grateful for all of this. Like I want to be able to do this more. Like we've had either technical issues and stuff like that, but we're gonna try to set it to Sunday and Wednesdays. And if I can't make it or if Jonathan can't make it, we'll do it alone or we'll have guests on. But we'll try to continue to push out this content, man. Because this he's Stu Gotts and I'm Dan Levitard. You know what I mean? And
I don't know
that's
about
just what
that.
it is. I feel like that's how we should end this podcast. So let's just end it right there. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Peace. Jonathan, you want to say anything? Oh yeah, be grateful, right? That's how you want to leave it. All
Man,
right.
just call it.